I will never put a single speed pump on. I always do autofill. Some people still charge extra for that.
Wow.
We have, if it's a pool and spa, it has a remote. We have a large filter. I started with cleaning pools. And so when I build a pool, I want it to be easy to maintain.
Yeah.
But when you start getting into the upgrades, that's where you start to go up.
From the grit and the grind to successful minds, live from the entertainment capital of the world, your hosts, Jillian Batchelor and Daryl Hannah.
Hey everybody, Daryl Hannah here with Vegas Real Talk, and I am joined by the illustrious
Courtney Buford with the Bachelor Hannah Group. I almost forgot the name of our little team.
I know, because it's like Vegas,
I know.
It's Vegas Real Talk. It's not like
It's
Bachelor Hannah, it's like Vegas Real Talk now.
I think the Courtney Bachelor Hannah
That's
group
what it is.
would be better, but that's
Okay.
another
All right,
that's
all right.
another story.
That's another story, for sure.
Who do we got today? Who do we got?
Yeah, so I'm flanked by some real talent. I got Courtney Buford to my right, and to my left, the famous,
greats.
infamous Ron Mecham with
Ron,
Lifeguard
welcome,
Pools. What's
welcome.
up, buddy?
Nice to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah, always good to see you.
Absolutely.
So Ron's pool builder here in Las Vegas, been here for a very long time. We were just talking about before we started taping where we first met, and that was like 20, almost 30 years. Yeah.
Oh, before Meridius, huh?
Yeah. When I owned the masonry company.
Oh, okay.
First met. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
he saw me go from masonry contractor. Then I went landscaping, then realtor. And then I was flipping homes with, you remember Craig Fuller? Did you ever met Craig Fuller, my old partner? No. Yeah. He's been around. He's seen me.
Awesome.
But anyway, tell us about yourself, Ron.
Well, I own Lifeguard Pools.
Yep.
I've been in Vegas my entire life. I started in the pool business when I was 15 years old. I went to work for a pool service company, and I've just been in it ever since. I started in the pool business by cleaning pools originally, and I'd ride my bicycle out to my boss's house on the other side of town. One morning, I show up to his house after riding from Lamb and Charleston to Jones and Smoke Ranch, and I knocked on his door bright and early, and I was ready to go clean. And he came to the door and he said, "Hey, Ron," I said, "Doug, are we going to go clean pools?" And he had a rough night, and he goes, "No, we're not cleaning pools." I said, "But Doug,
I just rode all the way over there.
And he said, "I'll be right back." Shuts the door. Door opens up a couple minutes later. The keys are thrown out, and he goes, "Go clean your pools." I said, "Doug, I'm 15. I don't have a driver's license." And as the door shut, he said, "Don't get pulled over."
Figure it out.
You're kidding me. I'm not kidding you. And that's how I began my career.
Wow.
Since then, we've done just about everything in pools. I had a pool service and repair company. I built up a tile company to where we had 12 tile crews.
Wow.
We have plumbing licenses and plumber-owned pools. And, I stay in the pool business. I have many other licenses, and I've done many other things. I built homes. I have a masonry license. I have plumbing licenses. But I always come back to
Circle around the pools. But what's cool about pools, and I've built a few pools like owner builder. I never had a pool license, but it's cool because it's like when you build a pool, it encompasses everything, kind of goes with the pool. Patio cover, concrete, masonry, landscaping, like it all centers around the pool, right? Yeah, which is
pools are one of
fun.
the funnest things to build.
It is.
Because even though houses are very nice and they're awesome, people spend a lot of time in their backyard. And so we're fortunate enough to be able to not just build pools, but create outdoor environments. And I love doing it. I know that you love pools. Because I see your website and it's always pools and outdoors.
Yeah.
And they're a lot of fun to design. They're not a lot of fun to build. They're very difficult to build.
They are.
I would say
especially in
all
Vegas.
the things I've ever done, building houses, masonry, whatever, pools are probably one of the most difficult things that we can do. But it's what I love.
And to do it correctly. Because we've seen some real horror stories. Even when I first started to build pools, I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. But there's so many tricks to building a pool correctly that when you're done, it like all the little details, like it's really hard to explain, but it is, you're right. It's very difficult.
Yeah. You hit on it. It's all the details. And it's funny because quite often I'll have somebody that I'm out at their house and they'll say, look, I built my pool myself. And I'll look at it and think, well, it looks like you built
Your pool yourself.
but ultimately, you know, pools are great for Las Vegas because it makes it to where we can survive in this desert.
Bearable.
People come to me
100%.
and they say, hey, you know, I want to put a pool in because I want to increase the value of my house. And that's not always the right thing to do. In many cases, pools are what sell houses. Do you agree with that?
Sellability.
That's
Yes.
exactly right. It's not so much the value that it adds, it's just it makes it more attractive, right?
It does.
Yeah.
And on top of that, pools and spas are the sellers. And quite often people say, well, should I put a jacuzzi in? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, if you're going to
because,
build a pool, build a spa.
you can have a very nice pool. And if there's not a jacuzzi, a lot of times that makes
It turns off the
less
buyers.
sellable.
Yeah, when we're trying to list a home and we've only got a pool, I get that feedback all the time. We love the house, but your pool doesn't have a spa. And I'm like, well, you know, you can add one, or you can, you know, put a above ground spa, or, you know, I'm always trying to like defend
Nobody wants
not
that.
having a spa, but it's a big thing. It is. And if you're building a pool, it's not that much more money to just add the spa.
It's anywhere from $14,000 to $16,000 on the
But overall, when a pool's costing you 120 grand,
It is.
it's not really right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I want to, because I've been dying ever since I knew that you were coming on the show. I'm like, Ron. So I used to be able to tell my clients like, oh, 70, 80 grand, you get a pool. But now that's not even going to like get the hole dug. Like, dude, it's expensive. Like what's caused that?
everything, and COVID is where everything shot up.
Mm-hmm.
Much like what we're seeing with the prices of houses and everything else. For some reason, when COVID hit, we as an industry thought that we'd see a dip and pool sales would go down. And it was just the opposite. It was like somebody threw gasoline on it. And what it was is people who stayed home for the first time realized, you know, if I had something in my backyard
To do, I wouldn't have to leave.
and so it went sky high. But we have seen just huge price increases in concrete. Anything with PVC in it has gone through the roof, up to 300% in PVC.
Wow.
Copper for
Steel.
wiring, the PVC for the conduits. Rebar has gone up, and that wasn't initially what went up. Cement has gone through the roof
Concrete,
because
yeah.
of gasoline surcharges, fuel surcharges.
So is concrete, you know, I'm a big concrete guy. I poured thousands of yards of concrete in my career. And when I heard what was going on with some of my buddies that own masonry companies and stuff, and they're like, well, basically they told me I got this many trucks every day and that's it. Is that something that you guys are going through with pools and stuff?
In some cases, it's limitations because of the fly ash, not so much of the concrete, the fly ash.
the stuff
They
that
can't
goes
get
in to
fly
make
ash.
wow.
And fly ash is a byproduct. And so if they're not producing diesel, they're not getting,
They're not
fly
getting
ash.
the shipments.
yes.
Basically.
And so
Wow.
everything has gone up. When you did concrete, just see how good your memory is. What would you pay per yard of concrete?
Oh God. I want to say it was like $90 a yard.
Bucks? It probably wasn't quite that much.
Maybe it was a little bit cheaper. I
Probably it was, when you did it a long time ago, it was probably about $60 a yard.
yeah.
And now for a shotcrete, for a yard of shotcrete installed, is about $275 a yard.
Really?
And yeah, when I first started building pools, it was 85. You mentioned that you could tell people $75,000 and $80,000 would get you a
For a
pool.
pool.
No, that would get you Disneyland.
Yeah.
The first luxury pool that I sold was a $65,000 budget. It had pebble, it had waterfalls, extra pumps.
Oh yeah.
It was loaded up, and now we can't do a pool only for $65,000. And they are. The
So you
average
can't even do a
pool
plain pool with just no upgrades. You couldn't do it.
really can't.
Yeah.
We are seeing prices of the average pool anywhere from 95 to 110, and that's an average pool. And they go up from there
With no spa.
No, that's a pool and spa.
Pool and spa.
Yeah.
So what you said 95 to 110?
95 to 110.
You can
And
get
that's
one
a
done?
Simple small pool at 95.
No water features, none of that.
No pebble tech, no in-floor cleaning system.
Well, we always. So I have a different theory on building pools, and that is I don't sell a stripped out pool. I will never put a single speed pump on. I always do autofill. Some people still charge extra for that.
Wow.
We have, if it's a pool and spot, has a remote, we have a large filter. I started with cleaning pools. And so when I build a pool, I want it to be easy to maintain.
Yeah.
But when you start getting into the upgrades, that's where you start to go up. Since PVC is so expensive, an in-floor cleaner can add anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 to the cost of an average pool. Pebble, same thing, $6,000 to $8,000 to the cost of a pool. And the more concrete you put. But, you can do a very nice pool without going way over the top.
Yeah. Wow.
Courtney, I know on your pool you have a really nice waterfall on it, right?
I do.
And waterfalls are nice, but what we're seeing is people move away from some of those things, and instead of putting the money in waterfalls, they're investing it into other areas of the backyard. Outdoor kitchens have become extremely popular. Destinations in a backyard, such as fire pits, are very nice, and people use them. Anything that you can do in a backyard, and some of the backyards are a little smaller, to spread people out when you're entertaining.
For sure.
And so people are spending more money on that. Instead of a big waterfall, fire features are very common because we live in Las Vegas and it's 140 degrees. So you need
So at night you want to go out there and
it looks amazing.
it does.
I always tell people that Las Vegas specifically, we love a few things. We love RV parking, we love our pools, and we love single-story homes. Those are the three main things they get asked about while people are relocating, 100%.
That's good that you brought that up, because from a pool builder standpoint, people always ask me the questions, but from a real estate standpoint, how popular are pools? How many of your clients say, I want a pool?
Popular. I would say at least 70%.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Of buyers want a pool.
And the ones that don't are typically people that have young children that are concerned with the safety factor. Yes. But taking that out of the equation, it would probably be closer to 85, honestly.
And then you get the ones that if they can't have a pool, they want a lot that can put a pool in, down the road. Do you build all the fire pits and the fireplaces you do everything?
Since we have the licenses to do everything.
Good.
That's
awesome.
Pretty much anything in your backyard, and we can do it legally.
You just did that one for me not too long ago up in Summerlin. That was amazing.
Yes, they just moved to
Arizona, Phoenix. Yeah.
So you sent some pictures. I saw your pictures, and beautiful.
What was the name of that street? God dang it, I can't remember.
Yeah,
but you remember. Yeah, the Troyers.
So when they sold that house, or when they listed that house, those photos were amazing. The house was very nice, but even I saw the photos, and I'm like, wow,
they missed the market by about one. They missed the market by about 1 month.
Yes.
That was the difference between selling that home for 1.7 and 1.1.
That's amazing.
Yep. That literally 500,000-600,000, 30 days. I felt so bad for them.
That's crazy.
But there was a model match right across the street. Obviously had the view of the city.
Is that Molinetto? Is that the one?
Molinello?
Molinetto.
Molinetto.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, Molinetto. That was rough, man.
That was a sweet backyard.
It was.
That had everything.
The whole house was sweet.
We had everything in that backyard. We had a nice sitting area in the back. We did some of the artificial grass to make it look like it was a little bit cooler. Artificial grass is hot.
The pictures were amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really pretty. We had water features, everything.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't even realize you'd built that pool. But so since we're talking about people building and so forth, new construction, I get asked a lot, how much of a lot do I need if I'm going to build a pool on my new home lot wise, from the yards or the feet from the back wall, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So setbacks are everything.
Yep.
The legal setbacks versus association setbacks can vary. A lot of times the associations will ask for 5 feet, especially some of the Summerlin neighborhoods. And 3 feet from the back wall. So 5 from the side wall.
5 on the side, 3 in the back. Gotcha.
But the reality of it, and I didn't even know this. I've built pools for a very long time, and I just now found out on a couple of pools that in the county, they don't have a setback on the back.
You could put it right up against the wall?
Right against the wall.
Really?
Even the inspectors
I didn't know that.
Because I thought, no, there's no way. And we designed a pool, and there wasn't a lot of space. He had a raised wall, so we did a really big raised bond beam and water wall on it. And he says, I want it right against the back wall. Went down to the building department. They says, yeah, we have no setback.
Go ahead.
But even the inspectors, when they came out,
they were like, nope, this isn't going to fly.
That's the problem, right?
Now, I know that's county. I've never tried it in the city or anything.
Yeah.
And I try to keep it further away because I like to create a landscape buffer. But the setbacks are this. We go 5 feet off the house from any windows that are not tempered.
Okay.
Sliding glass doors are tempered. but the legal setback is 3 feet off of the house, unless it's engineered into the house, because quite often on the customs, you'll see the water right up against the edge and the house is built on that.
Yeah, which looks cool.
Yeah,
or like columns of the house in the middle of the pool and stuff.
Correct. So 5 foot setback from any non-tempered windows, 3 from the sides, and 3 from the back is what I asked for.
Gotcha.
Those are our setbacks. We have recently, though, had a lot of changes in what we can build on the pools. They recently passed an ordinance that allows us to build pools no larger than 600 square.
I was just going to ask you about that. Like, has that really been a bummer for you guys business-wise?
It's going to make a major impact on a lot of the custom homes. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see people who will, when they're looking at custom homes, they're probably going to look more at a resale home.
Resale that's already got a big pool.
Build, because on a 600 square foot pool in a regular backyard, that's a big pool.
That's a big pool.
Many times you can't get anything bigger than that. But when you're looking at building a house in a Skya or one of these lot dudes up in McDonald's,
It's a small
They
pool.
want something big.
yes, because you have this massive house in a 600 square.
And there's no way to like get a variance on that or like to
Right
do
now-
a special thing or
Right now, there's nothing, and I don't see a change until our lake comes up.
yeah.
Because and I don't know that it really saves us any money.
Mhm.
I think it's more optics than anything
Yes.
else. The water district says, "Look what we've done. Look at how many gallons." But it
Look what we've
doesn't
saved,
Make
yeah.
a big difference. If they wanted to make a difference, it makes more sense to limit the types of pools that you build.
Does the 600 square feet include the spa?
It does anything at all. So if you had a negative edge pool, which I think those will probably go away, even that negative edge
That
trough,
sucks.
is considered-
Especially up at a Skya.
Exactly
That's really
right.
bad. But I think what you'll see is people get creative. Instead of the pool being the only feature, I think you're going to see more things in the backyard that add to the outdoor
Yeah.
environment. I wouldn't be surprised that you don't see more movie screens and sitting areas and putting greens and things like that. Anything that they
Outdoor entertainment other than
can
a pool.
outdoor entertainment, because you just can't build any bigger. than
Yeah, that's a
600 square
bummer.
feet.
Yeah.
Let's talk about timeframes. So if a person wants to build a pool, twofold. My first question is, how much time can they expect that pool build to take if they're going, say, the full boat? Say they're doing 625 square feet. What does that look like?
It really varies from pool to pool, and our time frames have been awful, because another thing that has driven the cost is labor. The labor is very difficult to find people who are good enough to do the work.
Yeah.
And there were so many pools built that you just couldn't schedule.
Couldn't keep
That has improved dramatically over the past 6 months.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because new home sales have dropped a little bit.
So it's
I
kind
think that people are a little worried about, where they're at.
the economy.
With the economy. But, funny enough, I'm busier than ever.
Yeah.
And it's just being selective with what I build so that I don't take on too many jobs.
I love the fact that you're almost like, what's the builder where everything's included? Is it
Lennar.
Lennar? So like they have the EI,
Yeah.
everything included. So you're kind of the same thing, right? Like you build a pool that comes, I mean, you're going to get from Lifeguard Pools a pool that you'll love.
Everything.
It's not going to be just stripped down. 1 year later, you're like, God, why did I build this pool?
When I design a pool, and you probably look at it, I know you're really into materials. Materials are everything.
Yep.
I always tell people that's a Pinterest pool.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks good on day one, but it may not look so good 6 months from now.
Right.
So when we pick materials, we try to find materials that are going to weather well, that are going to age well. And if you look at that same pool 8, 10, 15 years down the road, it still looks good.
I'm wondering what is your favorite type of pool deck?
Pool deck. What is my favorite, or what is the most practical?
Okay, so what?
So that's and I say that because that's the discussion I have with everybody. Spray deck is the most practical
And
because
it's the
doesn't
cheapest.
stain. It's easier to walk on. It's not slippery.
Mm-hmm.
And when it ages, you put a new coat of paint on it. Looks brand new.
Okay.
But nobody wants spray deck anymore, because if you go to Pinterest, nobody has
Yeah.
Pinterest pictures. And so pavers have been really popular. And I'm not a huge paver fan. We do a fair amount of pavers, but the problem with pavers is if you go inside of a house and you look at a stone floor, it looks great. And in the kitchen, a year, 2 years, 3 years later, it looks horrible. And that's the same thing that happens outdoors. Porcelain pavers look amazing.
Yeah.
They look amazing.
The one that they kind of look
usually
like
have a
concrete.
texture, but they get very hot because the sun bakes on them. But if you're looking for something that's durable, instead of a spray deck, porcelain pavers are a great option. Stamped concrete is horrible. Never do stamped concrete. It's too slippery. Exposed aggregate is one of my favorites also.
Yeah.
Because exposed aggregate, the rock doesn't change colors. The rock doesn't show cracks.
What's the, I obviously on Pinterest, I see a lot of pictures of it's like almost just like where it doesn't look like poured concrete. It looks like big slabs that they've laid, and it cantilevers over the edge of the pool.
That could be a lot of things, but it's probably a porcelain paver. We just finished one up out at Seven Hills, and those are custom-made caps.
Yeah.
You can have a porcelain paver that's really about 3/4 to a 1/2 inch thick, and then the edge is built.
Just like they do like in the kitchens or whatever.
Yes, and there's also prefabricated caps and stone caps that you can get in a 5 centimeter instead of a 3 centimeter that are thicker on the edges. There's a lot of options out there. We did one in Lake Las Vegas. I love going to my old pools, by the way, just as much as I like my new ones. If I see an old pool, it's like seeing an old friend.
Yeah.
And I went to one the other day to check on the plaster because it's been 15 years and it's time to replaster. And we did way back then a concrete cap that is a
You poured it in place?
concrete cap. No, it was a paver. It was a concrete paver, and it looked phenomenal.
Still to this day.
And it also adds a thickness because a lot of pavers, if you're doing, they call it a modern edge, it's nothing more than a thin paver that just hangs over. I don't love that.
I like when they go around the pool, the coping. Like, remember the old coping?
Yes.
Those were amazing. With the round, you could grab onto it.
So a funny thing about that is we used to make our own coping. We had forms and we would pour it. And if you had a tile company, you had forms and you would pour your own
Like in the yard.
In the
You
yard.
just pour miles of it.
And the reason for that coping is because there was no way to finish concrete to the edge. And so there was no way to form
You
it.
didn't have the foam forms that we have now.
Yeah. Bill Stegmeyer came in years ago and figured out, hey, if you do tile, I can make a foam form and you pour it.
Sits on the tile, snaps back.
Yes. But when I go to an old pool and
I got a funny story about that.
Yeah. I will not let the people take that coping out. I'm like, this is too cool to tear it out. And let's keep it in.
And so if you like a lot of those pools that have the old coping, almost always there's one or two that are like broken or do you just try to patch it or what do you do?
We can patch them and it's a pretty good patch, or else there's still places where we can buy coping.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can order coping. And
that's cool.
It's not real popular, but even Cool Deck. Cool Deck is what we used to use, and people call spray deck Cool Deck, and it's not. Cool Deck was a cement product that was, it was a colored cement, and you would dash it on.
Yeah.
And it was airy.
And you actually finished it with a trowel.
Yeah, you would
knocked it
dash
down.
it on,
Right?
trowel.
It's not a thing anymore, right?
Well, I didn't think it was a thing anymore because we couldn't find it. And so I looked it up online. Yeah, it still exists. I'm half tempted to start doing a few more Cool Deck.
Because I remember we used to splash it.
Yes.
And then you'd knock it down just like you do on walls.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It looked like an orange peel almost. Like.
Yeah. And that's the coolest, but it's not the most practical because it stains, it chips, and the repair is a different color.
Yeah. So the funny story about the foam, when they first came out with the foam that stuck on the tile, I think it was the first pool I ever built. I didn't put the plastic piece on first.
Right.
So when we stripped it, it was basically just concrete right to the tile.
Yes.
So there was that, and then those are the little tricks that the guys that know what they're doing.
Yes.
Because when you strip that form and you've got that little piece of trim there,
Right.
it looks finished.
Yes.
But there's a lot, like, that's a good example of like these guys that run around doing these pools for cheap. It's like, you're going to get what you pay for.
We see it all the time.
Yeah.
I get calls quite often. Sometimes I'll get calls to go and check jobs that
We just got one
gone
from us
sideways.
this week.
Yeah, and that worked out really good. But I have one right now that the homeowner signed a contract with a guy who was not licensed to build pools, and he immediately sent somebody out to dig the pool who wasn't qualified to dig the pool. He raised the pool up out of the ground almost 7 inches higher than it should have been, making it impossible to pour a deck. He had somebody plumb the pool who shouldn't have plumbed a pool, and they put an in-floor cleaning system in, but they didn't put any heads in the spa, which makes it unusable. And the list goes on and on. They forgot lights.
Did they shoot the pool deck on the shell?
It's almost done. And even the tile, they sent a guy out to do the tile that shouldn't have done the tile. And the tile's falling off the wall. And if you look at the back of the tile, there's no thin set sticking to it. Pools are such a specialty item, and that's why in specialty trades, you can have a concrete guy who's an amazing concrete guy who doesn't know how to do pools. And the coping looks horrible. Tile's one of the same thing. When we had our tile company, we realized we couldn't hire guys that did indoor flooring because it's a whole different monster.
A whole different ballgame.
So we had to train all of our own guys. Now, most of the guys are still out there, but now they work for themselves.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of pool tile companies. A lot of companies have gone away.
And you do your own tile.
We do our own tile.
Yeah.
We do our own plumbing. We do our own excavation. And we do as many.
You dig your own pools too?
Yeah, I have an
That's
excavation
great, man.
license. And so we're able to self-perform quite a bit of that.
Well, that's probably why you can do the pool for 95, 110, because that's the cheapest I've heard.
Sometimes. We even have a separate company that does plaster, Trident Pool Plastering, and so we're able to even plaster our own pools through that company.
And you do repairs?
A lot of repairs and remodels. As a matter of fact, everything changes, and if you don't change, you get left behind.
Yeah.
Before, you could build 200, 300, 400 pools with your eyes closed because there were so many subcontractors. And over the past 3 years, it's become so difficult because your labor force is down that I actually looked at it and says, I don't want to build 100 pools anymore. I build 25 pools.
That people don't pay my price.
More remodels, and then I want to do more repairs. And I do a lot of repairs. I don't want to change light bulbs, but we'll go change pumps and heaters and filters. And then we do a lot of plaster, a lot of deck. And I really like pools when, I get calls from real estate agents. They say they love the house. They hate the pool. What can we do?
Yeah.
And we can go on a complete
and revitalize
change.
it.
We can put raised beams on it. We can add wet decks. The only thing I will not do is I will not make them longer because I don't want to break that shell.
And that's another thing I was just going to say. It's probably what you're talking about is more of a thing of the future because of this new 600 square feet thing.
Yes.
Right now you can work with, because if a pool's already 800 square feet, then it is what it is. You can't make it smaller. So
you can make them smaller.
But remodeling them though is fun.
But you can do something. We've added spas to pools. We've added sunken fire pits and bars, and it's fun, and I enjoy that. And remodels, one of the main reasons I like the remodels is on a swimming pool. You had asked about timeframes. Timeframes were really drawn out, 5 months, 6 months.
Oh yeah,
to build a pool, and nobody's happy with the pool builder. And so we took a close look at it and says, if we build fewer pools, we can build them faster. And so we systemized everything.
So you're not spread out so much.
Yes. And our goal is 2.5 months from start to finish. That's not from the time we sign contract.
Yeah.
We do not start until we have permits. A lot of people do, but no, we do it right. We start it once we have permits, and we want it 2.5 to 3 months from start to finish. And we're starting to hit those goals. Yeah, it's been difficult, but everything, if you have a system, if you have a good team, and we had to retrain our team at COVID, we lost most of our employees.
Yeah.
Just if they were working for us, somebody would walk in the backyard and say, hey, I need my deck poured today. How much will you do it for? And these guys soon realized that, hey, we can do this for cash and we don't have to use anybody. So we lost everybody.
Wow.
That's by little we've retrained.
Got them back.
All guys stayed, and we've retrained them, but we have also trained them to build them the way we want.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's funny you say that, because I know you've seen the same thing with real estate, with pools, with whatever. Yeah, COVID sucked, and we went through a few years of just horribleness, and still going through some horribleness, but there are some good things that kind of came through it. We sharpened our tools. We learned new trades. We learned, like you said, you had a lot of your loyal guys stay, but now they've been trained to do it how you want it. Yeah. So it's almost like, okay, there are some good things that kind of came out of it.
There are.
Yeah.
I think our egos adjusted too. I was a great repairman. And when I had my pool company, I was an awesome repairman. And I did repairs for just about every pool builder. We started up everybody's pools, and we had warranties for about every manufacturer. So if it was a pump, filter, heater, cleaner, we warrantied it. And I learned a lot from that. And so when I started building pools, I went into this mindset that I'm a pool builder, and that's what I am. And over the past 3 years, I realized, I kind of I miss going out. And so I started taking on a few repairs. And what I found is I really like doing repairs. And so I'll go and do repairs.
And you
one day
can't
a
find
week.
anybody to do repairs.
You can't.
It's difficult.
Do you know what the number one requirement to be a pool service repair guy is?
You have a truck?
Have a truck.
Up. Exactly. Yeah, showing up.
Because they don't know.
Put fog on a mirror?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely amazed. I mean, some of the repairs that I seen. I grew up and was taught by guys that were old school. The guy who threw the keys at me was kind of irresponsible, but man, he knew his stuff.
Yeah.
He taught me how to do it right. And he
Learned how to drive a lot faster too.
It's almost like your dad, when your dad sits you on his lap and lets you
Similar.
drive the truck. Same thing.
Yeah.
You
My
learn by
first-
fire.
You do. My first repair that I did, I'd worked with him for a while, and one day he says, go do this repair. And I went out and I plumbed my first pool pump in. And I did such a great job. And by the time I got back to his office, he said, did you get it all right? And I go, yeah, it was good. And he goes, you forgot to put glue on the joint, because a lady had called and the pool had popped apart and it drained water. And he went back and he showed me what I did wrong, and he taught me how to think.
Wow.
What we're finding now in a lot of our construction, it's not just pools, it's everything, is there's not very many tradesmen anymore. There's not very many people who take the time to mentor. I mean, when you did masonry,
Yeah.
how did you get into masonry?
My buddy was like, you want to start a masonry company? And I, by trade, was a concrete guy.
Right.
And I had never, and actually I started out running a pump, grouting the walls. And I never even ran a pump. I didn't, I've ran a pump for pouring concrete, but not standing up on a 6-foot wall, walking backwards with that's what I did for the first year.
Yes.
And we had like 10 guys in a truck, and I learned by fire. It was, I had a lot of common sense. Right. I mean, I was a union carpenter for a lot of years. I poured concrete. It was just, I figured it out.
Right.
But being alongside people that knew what they were doing,
taught you what they were doing.
Yeah.
As a repair guy, there were several people that I'd follow around, and I just enjoyed working with them through warranty, and the little tips and tricks that they taught are tricks that
invaluable.
nobody knows anymore. Oh, if a valve's stripped out, you cut it out and replace it. No, there's ways to fix them. And you don't always just replace something until you hit that magic money number. You fix it. And most people replace it because they don't know how to fix it.
I think I might even mention this to you. I don't know. It was like maybe 10 years ago. I said, our town needs a school for trades.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And not just pools, not just concrete, but everything, electrical, plumbing. I mean, I know there might
TikTok,
be some.
all of it.
Correct.
But would you think that something like that, just for pools, man, it's like,
I am.
You ever thought about doing like a school or something?
Yeah, I'm trying, and I've thought about that, and it would be great to do a school, but the problem is the mindset has changed. We have people
where they don't want to work.
They don't want to work. They don't know how to do things,
and they
it's
can
funny
make a lot of money if they went,
they
because
can
there's
make
no
a
one
lot of
doing
money.
it. Yeah,
I've brought in people in and said, look, here's what I want to do, and I have this vision for how I want to run a repair company, because there's so many pools, and actually there's just a huge need for a good repairman, and nobody can find them.
Nobody.
And so I've offered guys to come in with the idea that I hire a couple of guys that know what they are doing, and hire a helper and train them and start building, because that's what we did with their tile company. You train in-house, you teach them how you want, you set your standards, and you grow a company. But I can't find anybody.
Yeah, right.
They'll last 1 or 2 weeks, and all of a sudden they'll flake out, or else the first obstacle that they find, they stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here in this interview today, and this morning I was out on a job lining up excavators, met with plumbers, and guess where I was at right before this? I won't make you guess. I was in a swimsuit in a pool pulling a light.
Yeah.
And freezing water, because that's what you do. You find a way to get it done, and you take care of it. Everybody else is like, no, we can't do that.
I'm not putting my swimsuit. I'm not getting in that water. You don't pay me enough to do that. I mean, I could already hear what they would say.
If it was in your blood. The house was for sale, so nobody lived there. It would have been safe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But
it's
if it's in your blood,
it's the air of responsibility. When I was a stagehand, we would build stages on top of people's pools for events, for weddings, for whatever. We get in that water because guess what? I had bills to pay, so we got in the water. That's just what you do.
You didn't even think about
right?
it. I mean,
Didn't
you
even
just
think
did
about it. Yeah, I just had to.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right?
Times have changed, and the mindset,
Which is sad.
But there's also a lot of good things that have come out of it. I mean, as far as these, a lot of our pool equipment now is all computerized. Everything runs off of apps, and
Wi-Fi.
the younger generation kills us on that stuff.
Yeah.
I can take, when I go to do a startup anymore, it used to be that you'd say, okay, this is how you turn the valve, blah, blah, blah. And you don't do that. What you do is you set up the computer and go, okay, here's where you go in and program it. And the dad looks at me like,
Oh, you take their phone and you go,
and
you
so
just
we
press
bring
this
in
button.
the youngest kid in the family, and we teach the kid. Or in a lot of cases, we just set up the computer and they instinctively know what to do.
Right.
And so again, changing of the times. It's difficult for us because we all were in construction and we all worked around those guys that were the hardcore old guys that would scream and yell and kick us if we didn't do it right. That doesn't exist. There's no more raising your voice on a construction site, because if you do, they walk off.
That's insane.
I miss that. I miss when you used to be able to get into it with people. And sometimes you'd even throw down with them.
Oh, yeah.
And then you would make peace and you'd all go back.
You go
to
get a
work.
burrito, and that's it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And those days are gone. And
Oh, that sucks.
there's
I hate to hear
always-
that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Times have changed. But,
I remember my journeyman, Brandon Gallup. What's up, Brandon? If you're watching, but he was the guy that when I first was a union carpenter, I was the grunt, and he was my journeyman. And he just taught me things like cleaning my tools.
Yes.
You cut out 15 minutes early and pick up your area and throw away your trash, and you do things right. And it's like now I walk across these construction sites. There's no pride, man. It's like people's lunch shit's still all over the place. Like that wouldn't happen when I was in construction.
It wouldn't happen.
No.
And that's one of the reasons why we train our own guys, because those values are something that you have to teach.
Right.
Cleaning the tools. I hired this young kid who came to work for me. He did some side work for me, and he did such a good job that one day he comes to me, he goes, hey, why don't I just work for you full time? And it was the best thing ever. So he's the youngest kid on my crew, and he's the hardest working, and he's just phenomenal. And the very first week he was out there, he pulled the guys that have been working there for a while, and he goes, look, you guys do great work, but you're too messy. And
I love it. I love it.
But when they heard it from this kid, and so he's got it to where they clean their tools, they clean their trucks, they sweep up.
They don't leave a Coke can in the person's backyard.
And I'm not saying we were messy, but it's the difference between finishing up the day and sweeping down, or finishing up the day and just kind of pushing all the big stuff off to the side.
Well, when I turned from tradesman to owning the company, and I would take my crews and I'd say, hey, look, we're going to get more business by people referring us. And they're not going to refer us if we leave. It doesn't matter how great a job you did, but if throughout the job you were a nuisance and you left their yard dirty and you left their hose running, or you did, that's the little things they're going to remember.
It matters.
And that's just gone now.
It's completely gone.
Not gone, but it's like, I would like to think it's not gone forever. Yeah. I almost, we need people like you and more like trying to bring it back. I don't know, man.
Bring sexy back.
It's good that we're around still to teach some of the younger people. I used to always joke that I was the youngest old guy in the business. I was the youngest pool contractor, and I think I still am, age-wise, the youngest pool contractor in Las Vegas. And I'd go into these rooms, and I was just a kid, but I'd been in the business for 9 or 10 years already.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one day I woke up and said, I'm the youngest, and then I realized I wasn't. I'm just the old guy. But I have experience, and I know things that nobody else knows. I go for a walk, and I can walk through a neighborhood, and I can tell you what's wrong with every pool based on the sounds I hear. That one, his valves are set wrong. It's cavitating. That one, he's got low water. This one is bearing.
Well, you're like the pool whisperer, bro.
It's really bizarre.
That's what you are.
But, that
Ron
experience
Mecham,
is
the
great.
pool
And you
whisperer.
talk about
It
that.
is.
It really pans out well. Recently, Jillian called up her office. We had a lady who
I was listening to all those phone calls.
And it was awesome because, she called and says, can you go and do a courtesy inspection? Now, we don't charge for inspections. We do that as a courtesy to all real estate agents.
That's awesome.
As long as they don't abuse it. It's just an example. I walk into this backyard, and in a matter of 15 minutes, I had evaluated the whole thing, gave them some good notes on the pool itself, had my office call and check the permit, and we found out that everything on the pool was okay, but the permit had
was never
been
finaled.
And it was really easy for the homeowner to do, but it would have been really difficult for the new homeowner to do
Because it wasn't their permit.
And at some point, you have to redraw plans. You have to get a different as an owner builder. She
Yeah.
could have stamped them ourselves. But it was something that we were able to finish up. And you know what ended up happening? It was a win-win for everybody. We were able to help your
Yep.
office out. We were able to help even the homeowner out who was selling it, because it could have come back and been a problem for her.
For sure.
But what's funny about it is at first she was pretty worked up about it. And then when she realized how easy it was to fix and we were able to help her walk through the process, she was very happy and very nice lady. And so,
you ended up getting
yes.
business out of it, right?
So she called me yesterday and said, hey, Ron, thanks for going out, looking at, is everything good? And I said, yes. 2 hours later, she calls back and she goes, Ron, I was thinking I have another house out in Inspirata and the tenant there really likes the house, but it doesn't have a pool. Could you put a pool in for me?
That's amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
I like it.
It was great.
And another thing was funny about that story too, because I heard the whole thing, because me and Jillian are in the same office, and you don't know this, and I'm sure Jillian told you. I'll guarantee it. The seller and the agent, I think her name's Mashid.
Yes.
They were like, "How did frickin' he find that?"
Because I'm the pool.
Right? Like that, they just could not believe that you went that in depth on it, right? Which shows what you do know. Because I think that a lot of people go do the pool inspection and they can't wait to let's just look at this pool and let's get out of there.
Yes.
They wouldn't have took the time to really do what you did.
Yes.
I remember that because they were like, "How did Ron find that?"
Yes, it was crazy. I'm in the backyard. I'm on the phone to my office, and Maggie in my office is amazing. I said, Maggie, look up to see who built the pool, the permit. I've been in the business long enough to where I can usually walk in the backyard and say, who built the pool.
Yeah.
And in this case right here, I walked back in the backyard, and it was that owner builder. Who said,
you couldn't tell.
and it was an owner builder who said, look, I built my own pool. I'm like, yeah, it kind of looked like it.
Yeah.
Because there were just a few
could
things
tell.
that were not quite right. And so I had her pull it, and by pulling it, we were able to see that there was no.
And you definitely could have saved her a ton of aggravation down the road.
Saved everybody.
Especially the new buyer
aggravation.
too.
Yeah.
Right?
And I appreciate getting phone calls from agents. I love to go out and undo things for agents. And a lot of times it's as simple as, with the experience I have, having an agent call up if they have any questions, because I can answer the questions.
Oh, 100%. You've answered
quite
a lot of
often.
my
I
questions.
can even just pull up a photo on the maps and give them an idea. Can you put a pool in this backyard? Can you not put a pool in the backyard? It's really simple, but I never have a problem spending time with agents, because it's good to help people solve problems, and you make connections that you never
It's good
know.
karma too, man.
Great
It
karma.
really is.
Hey, so time of year, if you're wanting to build a pool, what's the best time of year that's not going to put you on the waiting list for God knows how long? You get what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what happens with swimming pools is this. People get really busy. October, we start to get busy again, because people are setting up for the upcoming year.
They want to get the pool done by summer.
And it slows down at the holidays. January is a slow start, and the first day that the sun's up,
Where it
that's
starts
when we
getting
get all
warm.
these calls. And
Yeah,
my
yeah.
phone's ringing off the hook today because it's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
The best time to build a pool, really, if you're going to start the process, start sometime around October, November, and that way you have plenty of time to try out designs, even bids. When somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, Ron, I got your name and we really trust you," I still suggest they get 2 other bids.
Yeah.
And it's a benefit for them, because they may find that, they're getting a really good deal from me, or they may find somebody who has a better idea. It's important. Not every builder is a good connection for a client. Not every client is a good connection for a builder.
That's the same thing
We
in
have
real
the
estate.
same thing. Yeah,
Same thing.
100%.
But on swimming pools or any construction, 3 bids. That's the magic number. If somebody calls and says, "Hey, I hope it's all right, but I'm getting 2 other bids," I'm
Great.
happy. If
Yeah.
they call up and say, "I've gotten 7 other bids," we normally are not happy to be the 7th, and most of the time we'll decline.
Yeah.
But it's important to get those other
For sure.
bids.
For sure.
Hey, you want people wondering. It's almost like when you put somebody under contract. We go through this all the time, but you still see them in the search, looking and looking. Well, we found the house. You love it, remember? And they're so, because they want to make sure. It's just human nature.
Want to explore their
And they
options.
should,
But
really.
the best time, start in October, November, take a break for the holidays, but start the first part of the year. And the reason you want to do that is the weather's more mild.
and be ready to go
Your time
beginning of the
frames
year.
are a little bit more relaxed. Funny story. When I was younger, and I was starting up my repair business, we had offices in the back rooms of almost all the big pool companies. And it was hilarious because the salesman would parade new clients around, and the pool salesmen then were three-piece suits.
Oh, yeah.
And Cadillacs and, lots of gold jewelry. And
yeah.
they'd bring people through the backyard and they'd say, we have our own in-house maintenance guy, which I was a subcontractor. And we have our own plaster crew, and he was a subcontractor.
Right.
We just had offices.
Dog and pony.
And in the summertime, they'd bring people through and they would say, you got to buy it now because we're having our summer specials. You got to buy now. And then in the wintertime, they'd bring a different group of people and say, you
Got to buy now. It's the
because
winter
prices
special.
are cheaper in the winter. Well, that's a myth. There's never been one of my employees or a subcontractor who says, it's cold outside, can you pay me less?
Yeah.
Right.
Prices always go up, and
Right.
prices never come down, unfortunately. Like with our concrete, we get these fuel surcharges as fuel goes up, but when the fuel comes down,
The prices
never
are
get
probably
that
not going to
credit.
come down. Yeah.
It's just escalating, and that's how we're in a situation. I'm kind of sad because pools used to be something that a school teacher or a person who worked at a casino could easily
Could afford.
And now they become.
Is there financing now?
There is financing, but it's not the same. Back when we had it,
Oh, it was
you
easy.
could you could get a loan with your house, you could get a second mortgage. It was a much more affordable thing to do. Now there's companies out there, and they'll do loans, but they're an unsecured loan, so your interest rates are always
Oh,
higher.
yeah.
Occasionally, the banks will jump into the market and they'll do HELOCs, but then when the housing market tighten, they
Oh, yeah. And those appraisals are low.
those
Yeah,
go
yeah.
away.
So as a person that goes out to look for a home, because clients always ask me, what am I looking for? They'll ask me about the deck, but they also want to know, should I be concerned about this crack? And I typically tell them, if you see any heaving, there's a lot of a bigger, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me
Hairline
out here.
fractures are.
Yeah,
are-
exactly.
All concrete cracks, but what you're looking for is openings in
Right.
concrete.
I always said if you could put a quarter in it, it might be a
Well,
problem.
and that's usually what the contractor's board rules off
Right.
of too. But even little things like that little plastic strip that you forgot to put in, it's there for a reason. And if you look at a piece of deck and you can see a gap under there, that deck is lifted pretty high.
Oh, you're talking about the strip between
Yes.
between
Up
the,
underneath.
Tile, yeah. It's
Oh,
called
between
I
the
didn't
tile
realize
and
that's
the-
what you were talking about.
You're
Oh,
supposed to
the-
put that strip first and then put the form. And
Right.
then when you strip it away, it's still there.
Right.
I didn't even put the strip.
Oh, how do you fix that?
You don't.
You don't.
Oh.
You can't come
You
back.
can
in
never. You have to rip the whole deck
But
out.
those strips
just
are
messed up.
I've had people that we build pools for, and they're absolutely livid because that strip is in there. They go, "Why is that strip in there? I don't like that strip." So we'll go in and cut those strips out, but it's there to cover the expansion of the
Because
deck
it
as
moves,
raises
right?
Gotcha.
and rises. But things that you want to look for, you're a pool guy. Call me. I'll come out and take a look at it. I have
I like that
saved
answer.
people a lot of headaches by going out and looking. I've saved real estate agents a ton of headache, but more than that, I've also saved a lot of deals because the people realize this is not such a bad deal.
Right.
Even if you go to a job and you look and the plaster is falling apart, a lot of people look at it and go, "Oh, this pool looks horrible." Well, a $5,000 to $7,000
20
plaster
years
job
old. Yeah.
versus going and putting $100,000 into a pool, and you can do a lot of really nice things
Yeah.
on an existing pool for a lot less than if you build a brand new one.
For sure.
So, but little things too, as the pool whisperer, I can look at a pool and I can see what people have done to cover up problems. And I look quite often when I get calls, I think, man, I wish you would have just called me. We've had pools that were cracked and patched with plaster with the crack never fixed. And as soon as the people move in, a month later, the pool drains overnight.
Yeah.
And
You
those
made
are
a
things
you made
that-
a comment about that 15-year mark. Is that like the rule of thumb for your replastering your pool?
It's really not. So 15 is a long one. Most pool plasters, 5 years if they neglect them,
Okay.
7 to 9 years if they take care of them. But almost exclusively, when I go to a pool and it's 20 years old, I just got a call today from a customer. 21 years ago, I built their pool with a white plaster, and now they're finally ready to replaster it.
Yeah. Because they can
and-
last long and they
yes.
can go to shit.
And
Right.
the key to it lasting long, every single time, it's a homeowner who has meticulously maintained their own pools. Never want the pool guys there, not knocking pool guys, but homeowners who maintain their own pools.
Well, of course, you care about your own stuff better when you're more than the
Yeah,
stranger. does,
maintain
for
your
sure.
chemicals, brush it down, vacuum it when it's dirty,
Yep.
and you'll get a lot longer life out of all of your equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know.
But again, if anybody, and I don't know who all watches this, I know a lot of people do, But if you're an agent or if you're in an agency and you hear, hey, we have this, just call me. I'll go out and take a look at it. We'll
make sure that Billy puts all your information down below.
For sure. And you know what, Ron, thank you. I've been wanting to bring a pool guy in for a very long time because we get these questions constantly, and it's good to have a source.
And you're one of the ones that can trust too, Exactly. So you don't just build pools. A lot of them don't do repairs or inspections or all the little things that you do.
It's true.
So thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've helped us out a lot.
Awesome.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you. If you have any questions about pools, we're going to have Ron's number on there. And of course, if you have any questions on real estate, call this guy.
That's true. Don't call him.
And thank you. This is Vegas Real Talk. I'm Daryl Hanna.
I'm Courtney Buford.
Thanks.
Take care.